This is the rarely seen other side. This is the back side. Hello. I debated whether I was going to make this video that will help you out. It'll be about a couple little summer garden maintenance jobs. You would have noticed that it's been raining. How can you not have noticed? It's been raining each and every single day almost. With that has come some damage. A little bit of light pruning. We're going to clean up some grasses because they're starting to look a bit tatty. We're going to do some deadheading and even a little bit of planting. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot as well, some staking. Now this is the time of year where things start to get a little bit floppy, especially with the rain coming down. Things are tending to flop, they're drooping. I'm going to show you how to tie things up in your borders, but maintaining a kind of natural effect. Sometimes I think people have a tendency to put the stake in or put your plant support in and all of a sudden things are looking very straight and very strange. They don't look so natural. Before all the rains came, these were super upright, like a super fluffy pom-pom. And of course they've splayed out a little bit now, which is kind of okay. It gives you this kind of lazy, droopy, very natural kind of feeling. However, you can see that this also happens when you have such heavy rain. All these lovely stalks are going to get squished. Now you can kind of see they've been on here for quite a few days, so they're brown, so it's quite easy to see what you're doing. Always cut down to the base. Nothing bad is going to happen if you cut kind of where that cut is. Right there, you would cut at that break. It doesn't really matter. I mean, you're not going to notice it, and you can kind of either cut that back in autumn or you can cut it back next spring. These, remember when we got these and we planted them? So I've not stayed on top of my deadheading. I mean, I've really not been out. It has been raining all the time. To deadhead this, we need to deadhead these anew, these little coreopsis, so tick seed. So I got these were basically priced at, I need to get rid of them, so I think they were £4 each. You can see there's still quite a lot of flower heads to come, so that is bargain value. But you can see these, we need to cut all that out. As we walk through the little prairie, you can see another job. So these are the geums. They're in there. This Rebecca is about to burst, look. So with geums and your kind of late spring, early summer flowering things, now's the time to cut them. Now's the time to cut them back. Here's a better example. So you can see we've got all this dead stuff down here, all the brown. We cut that out. Less hiding spaces to slugs. Now, you don't necessarily have to do that. What you should really do though, if you're going to do something, is you cut back the old flowering stems, cut those all the way back down to the base. And you can see in here, especially with geums, quite easy. You have these kind of rosettes, and you can see the new growth coming up through here. You want to give light to the new growth, new roots. That gives you a bigger, better plant next year. All the other stuff, all the old stuff, can be cut away. Okay, put it on the compost heap. The other thing we're going to do, part of our little border maintenance for this week, is you see this verbena? Look at it. That shouldn't be there. It should be up here. We're going to have to do some staking and some tying in. The yarrow is starting to kind of come out and start to splay all out, It's not necessarily a bad thing, but in terms of neatness and overall kind of look, we might want to do something about that. So as always, when you're working with borders, your herbaceous kind of typical border, we start with kind of the tallest or the back thing, and then we work our way to the front. So in terms of, a lot of people might look and think, oh, bloody hell, I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to do it, I don't know where to start back to front. So that means for us here today, we're going to do grasses first. We'll trim those. Then we'll move on to staking. Then we'll move on to deadheading, pruning, a little bit of both. And then we'll plant in the coreopsis. Okay? The other key thing actually, is, look, actually, I'll turn you around. Even though it has been raining, you can see the echinacea, speedwell, bee balm, this rudbeckia is about to come out. And it's all, really lush and really, boom, built. And even though it has been raining, keep in mind, how hard does it have to rain for this soil to get really, really wet? Right there. Quite hard. Has it rained that hard? I don't think so. So still stay on top of your watering. Do check things. Do check your soil moisture. and importantly, liquid feed, liquid fertilizer. You want to get your nozzle right down into here and make sure that you're watering at the base of these roots, so you can also have plants that are giving you loads of flowers just like this. Okay, just a quick little bonus update. Anchusa verbena, the scabious is really starting to go. Look, there's an old little flower, and you can literally just pinch down to the base where the foliage is, if you can see. Pinch between your thumb and forefinger. Whoop, and there you go. Look at those. So it makes these long stems, and I see even still to this day people just kind of walk by, they'll take that and they'll take that right out. But really you want to trace that all the way back to the growth. So whether you have plants that give you singular big long stems and shoot up a flower at the end of it, or whether you have something bushier and it gives you like a cluster of flowers, always work back down the plant to where it starts to become the bushy plant part. These are our tools. Stakes. These can be anything. It literally can be anything. It can even be old sticks. If you're walking in the woods, pick up some nice sticks, old branches, use those. We have some garden twine. We have a mallet to hit those in. We have some plant supports if we need them. And what else? We've got a pair of clippers, and that's it. Right, so grasses, done. Look at that. This is one of my favourite parts about autumn, is coming in with a nice big bunch of these for the vase. You can save these, you can use them as decor. They do kind of stay like this almost indefinitely. I might clean them up slightly and use them in the house. So in autumn, maybe we'll do a little video where we do some flower arranging, but after doing that instantly, this is starting to look a lot better. What's next? So we're working again, remember, back to front. Next kind of tallisty, middly thing is staking a couple of these verbenas and having a little look at the yarrow. I've got one here actually that I want to show you. I think that's what people typically tend to do. They tend to just use one string there. They put this kind of, you know, nearish to the plant, and then all the stems get tied up like this. And you see what happens. You kind of get this A-frame kind of shape, and it's not natural. So I think the stick is in the right position. However, we're going to undo this, and these get reused, typically on the rose arch. Cut it properly. There we go. You can see we're splayed out. I'll show you what I like to do. The way that I like to kind of manage this workload is that I'll go through the border and I'll put the stakes in first before I start doing the tying. That way at least I know the structure's there, I get that out of the way, and then I get to work with the string. It's just easier that way. So we're going to do that. Right, so you can see we didn't need many. I mean, not right now. We might need more as the season goes on. We want to tackle this verbena, we want to tackle that verbena, and then I've put one over there because I'm going to show you how to do a perennial if you don't actually have a plant support. I mean, I was shocked at how expensive, you know, those kind of roundish plant supports can be, even the old-fashioned ones, you know, where the peony kind of grows up and through, kind of like a upside-down pasta strainer. It can be incredibly expensive, whereas a stick can be free. So I'll show you how to tie up something a bit more clumpy. Again, another little tip. The way that I like to do this, you have the string, I have it in my pocket. I go around, I cut a length, just like so. Boom, length. Okay. Then I go again. Right, so here we are. So rather than tie up all stems at once, I'm going to take some individually. I know it seems tedious. That's the way to get it to look natural. It's not as bad as it was this morning because I had this all tied up and bunched and it's kind of pulled it back a little bit. However, I know for a fact it will flop forward. It'll keep flopping forward. Cue the music. Now obviously you have a much looser length. When you're looking at a distance, it's a bit more natural than how it was, and that's kind of what we want. Okay, it's a little bit more work, but I think it's worth it. The other thing that you might notice is that's quite visible. We can put it lower, and essentially we can use the kind of basil plants there, like that helenium and the echinacea. We can kind of hide it a little bit. However, you're very prone to snapping. In a strong wind, boom, obviously the rope will act as an anchor point, and you'll cut your plant. You can go lower, but just kind of understand that there is, in a sense, a risk. It's looking neater. Now, neatness is not the only reason why you want to do this. You can see this yarrow, that part is starting to come over this echinacea. That's kind of just starting to spread out and really start to kind of take on the world. We don't want the yarrow crowding it out. This is non-COVID compliant. We're gonna, again, take that particular stem of the yarrow and we'll tie it to the one we've used, the verbena. So this is where you can be strategic with your use of your canes. If you position them right, you won't need that many. This is the rarely seen other side. This is the back side. Not everyone has those big, nice, wide plant supports, so I'm going to show you kind of what to do. You want a super long length of rope. The other reason why I kind of lean more towards rope as opposed to like a tie or something of that nature, typically it's a tie that keeps your stalk right next to the stick. So you either need a lot of sticks, or you just need to kind of accept that stuff is going to be very close to a stick, which kind of loses the sense of it being natural. What it also doesn't give you is, you can see it, the breeze is moving these things back and forth, the yarrows, the verbena, the grasses. And that is one of the kind of key philosophies, I think, of having a prairie meadow or a grass kind of led herbaceous border. It's movement. So if we're tying everything really close to sticks, we lose that. And that is one of the real joys of this style of garden. So, long length, and you're kind of just going to bundle. Right? Now we want some to be kind of flopping. However, these back ones are going a little bit the wrong way. So we're just going to come in and we'll tie them like that. We're giving a lot of slack here. You're just going to have to imagine those will straighten up. They will straighten up. In a sense, they'll go a little bit more that way. And the other kind of tip is that if you kind of always leave one, or maybe even that one perhaps could have not been tied, again, we create that kind of natural aesthetic, because you then won't necessarily notice that that's tied, those two, because that one is giving you this very kind of natural habit. Right, so next on our little maintenance agenda, so now we can go a little bit more forward into our mid and lower levels. It means we're going to start pruning the geums. We'll prune those all the way back. Remember, you can see a very kind of clear new growth in the center. Okay, you can see some nice leaves actually around the center. That's what you leave. The things where those tall stems, those wispy things where the flowers came, you cut those all the way back into the base, and you remove, okay, very important, you remove kind of all the dead stuff. The other key reasons as to why we might do that is that we're giving light the opportunity to really enter the crown of that plant. We're giving the opportunity for air to circulate a bit better around the plant, so it leads you to healthier plants. Okay, it's not necessarily just about aesthetic. It really does serve a purpose. The other thing we're going to do is we'll do a little bit of routine kind of deadheading. Cue the music. Man sat in the driveway. I'm going to give you a little test. Which ones do you think you take off? Well, hopefully everyone got that one right. Hopefully everyone got that one right. Did everyone get this one right? Did everyone get this one right? Kind of like the Shasta daisy there. Plants really do have a way, if you really kind of tune in, they have a way of telling you. As those petals start to kind of go down, you cut that off. Now, yeah, it looks pretty. You like looking at it. I like looking at it, and I find this hard as well. But very much like our little Coreopsis friend here, that is too far gone, so that comes right out. Okay? You'll chop him about there. That still looks pretty good, right? And that one. But if we look closely, you start to get a little bit of speckling. We start to get that sense of decay on there. So he's out. And because he's at his peak, another day, maybe he's still good. But in 2 days, 3 days, he's not going to be at his best. And that's energy. That's essentially being taken away from all of these lovely buds. Had we had left this Shasta daisy, now I've left a lot on here that people still cut. Now I'm going to come and do this again probably tomorrow and the next day. I'm going to be real methodical about it. Because if we had left all that canopy up, as beautiful as it looked, these little buds would never have gotten light. And that's why we deadhead. There's another one down here. That is why we deadhead. So that's everything we took off. Geums, Shastas, bit of Coreopsis. Pruning, cutting, staking, deadheading, all done. One last thing to do, planting the Coreopsis. You've seen me do this 100 times before. Not 100, but you've seen me do it quite a lot. I'll plant them in, and then I'll show you the border as it is when we're done. Coreopsis are in. I think it pairs nicely with the Monarda. You know, these little ruffles. Coreopsis, double the sun, 4 pounds. So only 35 centimeters high. A little tick seed. It says spring, well, from May to September, flowering, and it does seem like that. I mean, it's throwing up a lot, and it's already flowered so much already. Also, you can tell which ones are spent, because they'll be a bit like kind of arrows, whereas these will be a bit more round. So you know that this one is done, if you're ever confused about that. You can see much neater, much nicer. In fact, let's take that one out. So the bee balms have come out, the yarrows, really big. And you better get used to this border, because this is the border we're going to use for our Gardener 101 series that I have planned. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through extending, well, from basically the very first part of making a border, like literally the very first part, which is digging out some lawn for most people. But yeah, so there you are, some gardening jobs for this week. Some really nice ones actually. Nothing too serious, nothing too major. You know, I know a lot of people can't stay on top of things daily. You don't feel like you have to deadhead every day. I mean, if you want to be a serious gardener and kind of get the most bang for your buck, go for it. But, you know, kind of blocks are also okay. And look, that could have been another lovely grass. Now, I looked at that and I thought, you know, gosh, that's a bit sad. Because look at all these lovely things that should be out there, and now they're not, you know. If you go in with this mentality, you won't survive as a gardener. You know, no matter how little, how small, how big, how into it you are, you know, seeing the stuff that you put your work into and your effort, your resources, and seeing it battered by nature. I mean, we are always at the whim of nature. You know, sometimes gardening is too manicured, too clinical, and almost antagonizes the forces of Earth, of the universe. So we have to take something like this and look at the positives. And, you know, one of my favorite things is cutting some of this grass down in autumn and using it in flower arrangements. And then I thought, well, it's always there for the autumn flower arrangements. but it's never there for the mid to late summer flower arrangements, so that's the bright side of this. You know, like all the things that happen in the garden, when, you know, a tree gets struck by lightning, half of it goes down and maybe it starts regrowing and you just have this kind of beautiful form, you know, this really odd looking tree. Um, let these kind of things, let nature, let the accidents, let the mistakes, um, let them play out a little bit and see what you gain, see what there is, see what happens, see what else you can appreciate. Um, so hopefully this one's not too long. I'll try and edit it to really kind of focus in on those kind of key little maintenance tasks for summer. Until the next one, cheerio.